I'm Dana Denha, and you're watching FYI. Tucked away deep down on Varsity Drive in Ann Arbor is a place of wonderment and intrigue that houses the history of millions upon millions of specimens collected in the natural world and the discoveries of now.
Here we're inside the Research Museum Center, which houses 4 of the research museums from the University of Michigan. Inside the Museum of Zoology, we are the repository for preserved specimens of animals, and we have about 15 million of them that span about 200 years of collection from all over the world. I studied behavior, animal behavior, and so that's not a traditional path for someone who is a curator or director of specimens in a collection, because you cannot study behavior on specimens that have been preserved. So I come with a little bit of a non-traditional approach to thinking about what a collection is, how it can be used. I do take a lot of behavioral data on organisms before they're preserved and put into the museum. I go all over the Western Hemisphere looking at different color patterns that snakes have in nature and try to answer questions and test hypotheses about why we see that distribution across space and time.
This is the Herbarium at the University of Michigan. This is a large collection of plants and fungi with 1.75 million specimens. It's about the second largest collection linked to a university in the US.
So they are dried and pressed plants. I call myself a dead plant librarian, and they are there so that they can be a document, a record of the past, so that we can continue to see it in the present and into the future. The core of our collection is from the first Geologic Survey of Michigan in 1838. So we have collections from that time that we are still using for research, for historical research, not just scientific research. And the people who collected that had no idea what we would be using these specimens for. And as time goes on, specimens that I collect today are going to continue to be used on into the future.
And one of my best examples of the new technology that we use on specimens now that wasn't available 100 years ago is CT scanning, where we can take any animal that's in a jar like this and put it inside this machine, and what can come out is a 3-dimensional digital representation of what's on the inside of the animal without ever dissecting it or harming it in any way. And that kind of technology is what I hope for the future, that the specimens that I collect today can be used in ways I can't even imagine 100 or 200 years from today. So the Biodiversity Scholars Program is a new initiative that we launched in collaboration with the University of Michigan Herbarium to try to provide a stronger cohorting community and more research opportunities to undergraduates at the University of Michigan.
We are able to do so many different types of studies of research and understanding ecosystems because of the scale of our collection.
This to be my favorite row of snakes. We have 15 million specimens. We are one of the largest biodiversity collections in the entire world. Every museum collection is basically a time series where every single specimen is a time capsule of what life was like in the past, and then will be used as we continue to collect for what today looks like when we are in the past, to the scientists of the future. And one of the most important ways that collections can inform policy is also about human health. We help connect scientists around the globe to each other, students around the globe to each other, but also how local communities interact with their local biodiversity.
To learn more or support research efforts at the Museum of Zoology, visit lsa.umich.edu/UMMZ. And for more information and to support research efforts at the Herbarium, visit lsa.umich.edu/herbarium. Stay tuned, and we'll be back with more in exactly 30 seconds. For 25 years, a local theater artist has been acting, directing, and producing shows with a focus on social justice for the community to enjoy. During the dark days of COVID, Catherine Zudak had a vision to bring life back to the arts by creating a space for people to tell stories, share multimedia works, and host original plays. Joining me is Catherine Zudak, founder of the Forge Theater. Welcome to the show, Catherine.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad that we can finally talk. I'd like to know a little bit more about you. Tell me about yourself, your background with the theater, and then what led you to starting this space, which isn't your typical theater.
No, it's not. It's not a typical theater in the sense that it produces its own season, but it is an open community space. And my journey to opening Forge is fairly long. As you said, I've been in the business, mostly community, pre-professional, though not exclusively. And my goodness, when I first moved here to Ann Arbor, which is almost 25 years ago, I was still doing consulting in DC. My first career was as a social science researcher, which is the tie-in for social justice issues. But I was still doing all the work with the people I knew back there. And so I didn't really have a community yet here. And I found one within a couple years at Ann Arbor Civic Theater. And it was so wonderful because I was traveling a lot for consulting. I really didn't have the opportunities to connect with people here in the community. And I started out by working backstage more, and I would appear on stage also. But then when my kids came along, I found producing was so much easier because you can do a lot by email. You don't have to be at a rehearsal every night. And as part of that process is leaning into producing, I started to get very interested in new works. And that was really the result of, I think one year, maybe 2007, 2008, there were 8 Tempests that were produced by theaters locally. And I mean, it's a great show, love Shakespeare, but I was like, surely we have other stories to tell in our community. And so I started working on new play festivals. At Civic, I produced one there on and off for 15 years, I think, and it was really great. It was an opportunity for a lot of people in the area to present work, and actors loved it because, it was a couple rehearsals and you were good to go. And then I did start doing my own pop-ups of curated shows that I wrote parts of and my other playwriting friends wrote parts of. We even had songs. And sort of all that ended with COVID. And it was such a bleak time because theater, really, live theater, in-person theater is a hugely different experience than on Zoom. And so I was on the board of Civic and Nova at that time, and it just really seemed bleak. I mean, we couldn't do shows, and we tried to pivot and do stuff on Zoom, which was better than nothing, but it really brought home to me how much in-person matters as part of community building, and for the artists themselves to have that connection. So I came out of COVID having learned a lot of things. Civic mostly had to shut down. We let go of paid staff. And so I had to learn all kinds of nifty things like insurance and leases, and business systems, Google Workspace, ticketing. And that gave me the idea that maybe I could do this, launch a theater that was non-traditional and would really be open to independent artists and creators. And theater is fairly broad in that sense: storytelling, spoken word, improv, and also plays. And so the Forge really focuses on the development and presentation of new and original work. And original work doesn't have to be new, but the artists coming in, it's their work. So.
Yeah, so it could potentially be something maybe they wrote 15 years ago or 20 years ago.
Yes,
And I've never
absolutely.
seen this on the stage. I kind of revamped it a little bit and I want to bring it out now all these years later. Yeah, I think that's really cool and fun, and it opens a lot of doors for people that wouldn't have been open otherwise. Maybe you are writing, but there's nowhere for anyone to see your writing.
The new play festivals really brought that home. And it was not just people pulling things out of their drawer, though we definitely had those.
Yeah.
But it was people of all ages and types who just wanted to try it.
It's really amazing. Yeah, I think it's cool too because when you mentioned like, oh yeah, we've seen The Tempest or Noises Off a million times. You know what I mean? And then you're like, let's bring something that people haven't seen, which is super exciting in a way that you don't you've never experienced it before, so you don't know what you're going to get from it, and it could really just be like an exciting, fun time that you didn't know you were going to have because you'd never heard anything about the story before.
New and original work isn't for everyone. I mean, I know a lot of theater friends, people I've worked with over the years, and for them, the big shows are where it's at. They love the excitement of that, whether they're building a set for it or they're acting on the stage. And I mean, I've done that and I've reached a certain age and we're auditioning for the same shows over and over again doesn't have the same thrill as it once did. And I did get very geeked about new plays. So, it's smaller theater. It's more intimate. And I for one, really like it. And I have found actors who are interested in it, and I've found people in the community who are also interested in bringing their original work. And yeah, it's potluck. You're not sure what you're going to get, but The Tempest, but
Yeah. Talk about the name. How did you come up with this name and what's the meaning behind it for you?
for being newly created, hammered out in the crucible. And so I really like that image, so to give people immediately the sense that this is not polished, this is still in work. And when you forge something, it's also for somebody else,
Hmm.
right? I mean, blacksmith made horseshoes for other people's horses, or I actually have some friends who are iron workers and they do decorative stuff and then more industrial stuff, but you're creating for others. So that's the meaning.
And how does it work? It is a space for artists of all kinds, it seems like, but how do they get involved? What are the steps for people to be able to utilize this space?
So there's sort of four ways to engage. And we had an open house in November, but the space is definitely we're still creating it. It was a boxing gym for 8 years. And so we need to create a very different vibe from the boxing gym. And so the ways that you can engage, there is a membership program and people pay an annual fee and then they have credit hours every month that they can use sort of however they want, with the understanding that not everyone is going to use all their hours every month. There's a little bit of health club, stone soup going into that. And then there are just straight up rentals where people can come in and use the space. And they're teachers and facilitators. They want to do classes in here or programs. That's another way. And then participants. So you can come in as an audience member. You can come in as someone who wants to take a class. You can come in as someone who is helping a member or a renter with their project. So actors and other kinds of creatives can come in and help people with their projects.
How does the membership work? So, do you have to, before you become a member, do you have to do a show or anything like that? Or you can just sort of become a member and then you would get your credit hours?
So we've not opened our doors officially yet. That'll be January 1st. But I do have the membership application and the membership members handbook up so people can kind of get a feel for it. So you can become an annual member whenever you want. I already have one person who's told me he's ready to sign up, even though he doesn't have projects immediately in mind, but we've talked about some of the things he might like to do here. And people can try out the space in December. It's open, the heat's on. We haven't gotten the stage lights up and the curtains yet. And in fact, Glenn Bugala is using the space for that purpose, open door space right now, for a reading of Under the Milkwood by Dylan Thomas that they're going to do at the residential college. And so that is very much in keeping with what I'm thinking people can do here. Now, Under Milkwood isn't an original show, but people can kind of come in and see how they can use the space best for their projects.
Where is the space, and is it a space? I think I know where it is, but it has parking too that you don't have to pay
Yes,
for.
and it has no pole, like all garage industrial theaters, right? There's always a pole in line of sight with the stage. So this space is at the corner of Packard and Platt. The door actually faces Platt, but the address is 3000 Packard. And we are in the space behind Little Caesars, which is confusing, but there is parking. We get like up to 50 spaces, and it's a city parking lot. It goes a long way. So parking was actually huge.
I love that because I will tell you that sometimes I'm deterred from going to places if the parking is too complicated. It gives me a little bit of anxiety. So I love a good place that you can just pull up and park.
But we're actually in the same strip mall that the old Pointless Brewery was, which
Well, that,
promoted.
yeah, yeah, that makes it, that actually goes well together. Talk about, you have a goal for this place, right? You want to be able to pay your artists in the end. Talk about what you're envisioning. I mean, it's so new. Nothing's really happened much yet. You had your open house, you got Glenn in there doing some storytelling stuff, but it's really so new. So talk about,
It's
this
so new.
plan.
I'm so old, but it's so new. So I have, gosh, the my idea is I'm borrowing a little bit from regenerative economics, which is like in agriculture, but the thing is, I have been involved in amateur theater for so long, and it's just so hard to make it pay. I mean, nonprofits, it's tough. And oh my gosh, it's tough right now. I wrote so many grants during COVID, like tons and tons of grants for theaters. And so that the idea of like piecing together money and the people who are participating are like they paying to play and gas money and all that. And so the few times that I have been paid as an artist is really exciting. So my thought is that we can sort of make a regenerative economy out of theater. So rather than having it be a nonprofit, the membership fees support it, but the members also get something out of that. If they present a show, they get some of the box. Their eventual goal is to be able to pay artists directly, but right now it's more like they get the split of the profits. And I did a 5-month boot camp at the
Mhm.
Entrepreneur Center at WCC, and it was super helpful. So I had 2 mentors there who are trying to help sort of specifically with theaters. It's not like the typical entrepreneur, and they both strongly suggested that I start out as for profit, but not to make a profit, just to keep the eye on the ball of making it sustainable. So memberships are one way, renters are one way, classes and workshops are one way, and all the people who are participating in that do get some money back, but paying artists directly for being in a show will take some time. But at year 5, if it goes well, then we might actually be able to pay people for participation. So
Oh
cross
God,
your
wouldn't
fingers.
that be great? Talk about, people can donate, volunteer their time, and what that means, and what a volunteer would do, and why, we are in the season of giving right now. We're literally in what they call the season of giving. So if
We
you
are
want
in the season of giving.
donators.
I'm actually wrapping up my GoFundMe, which is for the build out of the space. And it's as a concrete floor, so we're getting some floating flooring in there, so it'll be more comfortable for actors and other people to be standing on. And so I had very specific goals, the lighting. So that is what the GoFundMe was, and I'm wrapping it up on December 1st, partly because, as you say, it's the season of giving, and there's so many worthy causes out there. So we sort of got mostly what we need to proceed, and the volunteer people have been volunteering with build out, and in general, this is not going to be. I mean, people are certainly welcome to volunteer, but I've had people in here helping me paint and clean up and build furniture, which is great. My 86-year-old mother was here helping me build the furniture. Once we open, part of the services we offer to members and renters is someone to work the front of the house and someone to work technical when they are doing productions and presentations. And for like every day, each member has their own key code. So they can come in and use the space. And one way is like open hours co-working during the weekday. And people can hold meetings here, both in the day and the evening. The only time we sort of close the lobby meeting area is when we're doing an actual show. So nobody will be having to compete with a meeting while they're presenting theater.
Do you foresee yourself? I mean, you're the brainchild behind this. Do you see yourself putting on a show or being a part of shows?
Oh, absolutely. I actually joined yesterday. So as a member, I do want to continue doing some of the stuff that I've been doing, which is new plays, new play readings, new festivals. And I am a playwright too, and a storyteller and a bunch of people. So I am looking forward to doing that, having a home base. So often, like when I did the pop-up shows, I loved it. The actors were willing. I had two come with me to Washington, D.C. to do a pop-up show on gun violence at Artomatic there. But the idea of having a place where we know where we're going to be, and the audience knows where we're going to be, and the actors know where we're going to be, I feel like that's going to help develop everyone to the next level. And so I would like to continue with play festivals, with pop-up shows, and storytelling events that are all stuff that I am interested in personally.
But I'm also sure, like you having you have a built-in theater community. You've been doing it for over 2 decades, and I'm sure you doing this is of interest to the people that you've been in shows with, your friends and people in that community.
I feel really lucky, actually, because I've been part of the theater community that includes Ann Arbor Civic Theater, Theater Nova, Brass Tacks, which is no longer with us, Carriage House, which is no longer with us. I did some work on programming committee over at Riverside. And then I was the Dramatists Guild of Rep for Michigan for 4 years. And so I have a storytelling community. I have a playwriting community. I have the regular theaters that do their own productions community. And I've been a jack of all trades. I mean, I work on props and sets and act and produce. So you're right. I do know a lot of people.
Can you tell us the different ways that people can connect with Forge? You have a website, social media, a newsletter.
I have all of those things. So my website is up and running, and it's Forge Theater Collaborative. I didn't anticipate when I chose that name how much typing is involved. So that was a lesson learned. And the Facebook page is up. We have Instagram, and I just drafted the first newsletter for December 1st. And so the people that have already like signed up were the folks who came to the open house. People have donated to the GoFundMe. So that's our initial audience for the newsletter.
Amazing. Can you talk about why, obviously, you're in deep in the arts community in this area, and why it is so important to keep that flourishing? You know, you were in COVID, you're like, these are dark times, but we knew we were going to get out of it at some point. And then you wanted to make it so that was a brighter spot for people. They had somewhere to go, and in more ways than other theaters do. And not to knock anyone, because it's really different what you're doing than other, like, you know, you have to get the rights to this play and you need a huge cast and stuff. You're saying that someone could come in there and do storytelling, which could be like one or two people in really small scale. So why are these things so important to have for people? And I personally know why I think it, but I'd like to know why you think it.
Well, you know, first and probably last is community. Community connects us, and community reduces our anxiety. Art reduces our anxiety. So I think both the times we live in, for personal expression, for connecting with other people who, you know, are going to nurture and shelter you, and you're going to nurture and shelter them, that's really meaningful on a personal level, but I believe also it has a ripple effect. And giving people who have different artistic outlets, performance-wise, a place to come rather than trying to go to an art gallery or the library, both who are great and have been welcoming spaces. But I'm really excited about the idea that if these different groups are coming here, not only are they strengthening their community as storytellers or as spoken word artists or as playwrights, but they're also interconnecting with artists from the different genres. And that I feel like will build us all up.
Honestly, I personally feel like there is a home for everyone in the theater, regardless of what your interests are, or if you want to be on the spotlight, or if you want to be behind the scenes. I really think that anyone could find something that they really enjoyed and found that there's no connection like you can get when you are in a show with someone or creating art with someone.
I mean, it can be a real thrill to perform, but it's also really wonderful. In fact, I've had a lot of people say that the creation of the show, being in the room together to prepare for it, is more than half of what is so important. Performance is great, but working together is wonderful too. So that's really what I hope going forward is for the people who like the smaller scale, the more intimate, and are interested in development and sharing new and original works, that this will be a place for all of them.
Well, you kind of said it right now, but if you want to add anything else, why should people check out Forge Theater, especially coming into the new year when you're really going to get things going?
Why should they check out Forge Theater? I think because it is a need, an unmet need that I have been talking to other artists for at least 15 years and maybe more, for indies, or people who just want to do something occasionally, or people who are trying to develop work that they will then send out to other theaters or try and present at larger venues. So I think that we're kind of unique in the scheme of things, and it is new. And so people who join can help shape what it is for them and the rest of the community. So
Well, thank you,
that's my
Catherine.
thought. Thank you.
For more on this and other programs, visit a2gov.org/CTN, visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor to see all that we have to offer. And remember to like, subscribe, and ring that notification. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time to FYI.